So you've got your brand new drone and you're ready to fly it for the first time. It can be quite a nerve-wracking experience and quite stressful. You've spent a lot of money on this kit and you don't really know whether you're going to be able to fly it properly, whether you're going to crash it or even something worse. This video is to help you get through some of that anxiety so that you can really enjoy your first flight and build a foundation for your drone journey, rather than something that is just a complete nightmare. The first thing we need to think about is when you're going to fly your drone. Now, if the weather isn't quite right, then you're going to need to be patient and hold off. I know you'll be raring to fly that drone, but if the weather isn't conducive, you could end up in a bit of a pickle. Now, with the DJI Mini 3 Pro and Mini 4 Pro, the maximum wind resistance is about 10.7 meters per second, or about 24 miles an hour. So you definitely don't want to fly when it's windy. And in fact, for your first flight, you want the conditions to be as calm as possible. Definitely don't fly in the rain. These are high-tech pieces of equipment that don't mix well with water. Even if you've only got a slight breeze on the ground, do bear in mind that the further up you go, the stronger the winds can get. So my recommendation for your first ever flight would be that you go to a maximum of about 50 meters, or about 160 feet. So whereabouts are you going to go and fly? Don't, however tempted you are, try to fly indoors. It can end up a little bit embarrassing trying to explain to the house insurance people why there's a little drone-shaped hole in your ceiling or in that lovely telly that you've been spending 5 years trying to save up for. Ideally, you want a nice open space with level ground with very, very few obstacles around, if any. So avoid any trees, people, livestock, buildings, wires, and you should be nice and safe. Yes, you can fly your drone in your back garden, but do you really want that stress? I suppose if you live in a mansion and you've got a massive back garden, or a field in your back garden, then that's great, good for you. Go ahead. So a nice open area, flat ground with nobody and nothing around. That's the perfect place to go and start. But wait, before you head out to that area, just have a check on the Drone Assist app or the DJI Fly app to make sure you can actually fly there and it's not a no-fly zone. Also check if it's private land that you're planning to fly on, that you can fly there. Now, you can go and get the landowner's permission to take off and land there, or you can fly from any public space and take off and land. You can still fly over any properties. However, please respect people's privacy. Okay, so you've reached your destination and you're ready for your very first takeoff. Now have a scan around the ground, see if you can find a nice flat area that's free of dirt and grass. If you can't, then there are landing pads that you can buy. However, I find that at a pinch, you can just use an old pizza box lid. Now you will have seen people on YouTube hand launching the drones. So they'll be doing this and with their controller fiddling about and hand launching their drones and catching their drones when they land them. I wouldn't advise that for your first flight. It's fiddly enough doing all this with the controls, and you want as stress-free takeoff as possible. Try that at a later stage. For now, let's just go with taking off from the ground. So on your controller, press the takeoff icon and then press on the center of the screen, keep your thumb there, to actually take off. Your drone will hover about 2 meters above where it took off. Listen for it to have recognized its home point.
The home point has been updated. Please check it on the map.
So if there is a problem with the drone, it will come back to that place. To double check that your object avoidance is on, I'd recommend that you set it to brake. This means that if the drone does go anywhere near an object, it will just stop dead and won't actually crash into that object. Set your controller to normal mode. So that's the N and the top of the controller. And just make some small movements with the sticks. Now, The left stick is uppy-downy, lefty-righty, and the right stick is forwards, backwards, and move left and move right. What I want you to do is not look at your remote controller screen, look at the drone. It's very tempting to just have your head down, looking at the screen, but watch the drone. Move your fingers very slowly. Do one stick at a time, one direction at a time. Get to understand which way the drone goes when you move your thumbs. That way, whilst you're watching the drone, you'll start to get a little bit of instinctive ideas about how that drone works and how it moves, and start developing a little bit of muscle memory. Once you've got used to that, you can make some larger movements, some combinations of movements, so forwards and left or right. Try to fly the drone around you. Visualize where you want to put the drone, and using the controls, just gently move the drone to that position. Do that a few times so that you're just getting confident with how to move the drone around. And again, not looking at the screen, looking at the drone itself. Following that, and not many people will advise this, but if you're in a beautifully open area with no objects around, switch to sports mode, and again, starting off with small movements on the sticks, see how the drone reacts. Move it around. Fly it away from you, fly it back to you. Remember, when the drone is facing you, left and right is reversed. You'll only really get that from actually flying the drone, and it will become second nature. Really doesn't take very long at all. So you're in sports mode, you can blat around a little bit, fly along, do a sweeping curve to the left or a sweeping curve to the right. If you get in any trouble at any time, just let go of the sticks on the controller and the drone will stop, not quite on a dime, but it will stop very, very quickly. Worst case scenario, if you're having real problems and real struggles, press on the return to home button, keep your finger pressed on it, and the drone will come back to you. So do that, use up a battery, your controller will tell you when it's time to come home, and as long as you've got return to home selected, it will automatically do it. It's always a good idea to practice a landing manually yourself first. So switch back to normal mode on your controller and bring your drone back towards you. Bring it over to where you took off from and just hover there for a moment. Then press the down stick and keep it held down. Now, as the drone gets towards the ground, it will pause for a few seconds about a meter above the ground, and then it will start to land. And as long as that area of ground is nice and clear, it will land and then it'll shut its propellers down. And that'll be it. You'll have completed your first flight. So you've used up your first battery, you've landed your drone, and you've done it all nice and safely. But you'll have a lot more fun because you'll have done all of that in a nice, safe environment. Now, as far as the details of what you do, as far as videoing is concerned and doing cinematic shots and that sort of thing, I may do some of those videos in the future, but there are plenty of really good YouTubers out there that do a much better job at instructing you on that than I would. The Drone Creative is one of those YouTubers. He was one of my first go-to people for drone instruction, and I would thoroughly recommend him. Please leave a like and a comment, and please do subscribe for more upcoming videos. If you're thinking of buying a drone and haven't actually bought a drone yet, then please do watch this video here for some really good tips. Bye-bye.